Good day, everyone. Always a pleasure to be with you. We have a rather startling image before us this weekend. The image of the outstretched arms. The outstretched arms. The charismatics love it, praying with your hands outstretched. It was referred to officially today as the Orans position. Well, in the first reading this weekend, we find Moses in the Orans position, praying during battle. As it says here, as long as Moses kept his hands raised up, Israel had the better of the fight. But when he let his hands rest, Amalek had the better of the fight. In the biblical accounts of prayer, many different postures are described. The Orans position is just one position. Four in particular. We are told that Abraham fell upon his face before God in Genesis 17:3. So that's the very first prayer posture in the Bible, like laying flat on the ground, lying prostrate. The second is what we have today. Moses prayed with his hands outstretched in Exodus 9:27 to 29. The third is one that you're very familiar with, which is kneeling. We are told in 1 Kings that King Solomon knelt in prayer, chapter 8, verse 54. And finally, we are told that when Jesus prayed, he looked up to heaven, he looked up to his Father. Mark 6:41. So there we have it, four prayer postures. The question is one better than the other? Should we all start using all of them? Well, I think the Bible is trying to indicate two things. First of all, that prayer is serious business. I've said that before. And secondly, that your posture should indicate the attitude of your heart. Your prayer posture should indicate the attitude of your heart. No posture, for instance, indicates humility better than lying prostrate on the floor. It is an indication of our unworthiness, our inadequacy, our inability to accomplish God's will. It is telling God, I trust that your strength will sustain me throughout the day, and that without you I am nothing. Kneeling, on the other hand, indicates adoration. In Matthew 2:11, we are told that the wise men, when they came before the babe in Bethlehem, they knelt down and worshipped him to acknowledge the lordship of Jesus. It is a sign of reverence and worship. And it is interesting that we spend about 40% of our time in church kneeling. It indicates why we are there. We are there to worship more than anything else. But this weekend we have before us the outstretched arms, which is a different posture altogether. This time it is not so much adoration as supplication. To raise up your hands is to appeal to God's sovereign power. It reflects God's redeeming work. To lift your hands in prayer is an indication of where our help comes from. Our hope is from on high, from up there, and not down here around us. And this form of prayer and posture is commonly used in times of distress and trouble. In the first reading, Moses raised up his hands in battle. And in the gospel reading, we are told that a widow is seeking redress against an adversary before a judge. We are not told what the situation is, but the mere fact that she was a widow means that her situation was probably quite desperate. Who knows, maybe her property had been seized, her animal that she depended on for her livelihood might have been killed, or maybe there was some debt that was unpaid. And you know, we all need to lift our hands up in prayer, because we can find ourselves in desperate circumstances in the twinkling of an eye. No sooner you think your life is just moseying along and everything is hunky-dory, then you can find a tragedy can strike. There are lots of people, lots of us, who may have climbed the ladder of success. We have bought the dream house, we have paid all our debts, and we think that we can put our lives on cruise control. Just press OD, overdrive, and coast our way to heaven without having to do any hard work. We don't need church anymore. We don't need to pray. Well, if that is your mentality, you better watch out. The dream house, the dream marriage, and the dream job can all vanish overnight. The dream country can disappear. Talk to the people of Syria and the Bahamas. Our perfect health can be affected. And that is why you need to have your hands lifted up in prayer before the Lord at all times. That is why we need to pray night and day. Pray and ask God to protect everything that you hold near and dear to you. And notice how it goes. As long as Moses' hands were lifted up, the Israelites prevailed. And when his hands were down, Amalek prevailed. So don't let your guard down. Pray at all times. And you are going to get tired. Right? Moses' arms grew weary, we are told. How many of us have grown weary praying for family, praying for friends or co-workers? Moses had Aaron and Hur to support his hands, and we need each other as well to pray and to support one another. So my friends, this weekend and all weekends and at all times, just pray. Lift your hands up in prayer. Pray without ceasing. Ask God to protect you, to protect your home, your family, your finances, and everything that you hold near and dear to you. You will not regret it. Do not grow weary. Pray unceasingly. God bless you all.